Hello and welcome to another video. So we've covered a few of the new carded decks with a few of the new cards in them, of course. So I wanted to try something not different, but just something normal. So I went with the Summit Tenko decks. I actually really enjoy these, and I spotted this one when I was searching through for decks to play with some of the new cards, and I thought, why not just try and rehash this for a bit and give it a go? And honestly, still one of the most consistent decks I've ever played. I honestly have a much higher win-loss ratio with this deck than most other decks that I typically play. I mean, they're all very similar Tenko Haven decks. Like, there's not much to say about them in that way, but the Summit, of course, does give you that extra reach, which is always handy. I mean, that can come down to a pretty easy turn 8, even turn 7 win if you've dropped Summit Temple early, but overall, I find these decks particularly a lot fun to play because they are a more control-y variant, which is always great. So we're going to get right into this, and our first match will be a quick one against Sword. Sword typically isn't a hard match for this deck, unless of course they stop all your ping damage, in which case you can run into some trouble, but honestly that's usually not too big an issue, because even if they do stop your ping damage, you usually have some pretty decent options anyway, and you can deal with a lot of their cards as they come on board, so they don't have anything to use that protection on most of the time. Plus, the amount of healing this deck runs is usually pretty insane, meaning you can keep out a range of, I would say, 80% of potential lethal situations from a deck like Sword that requires to whittle you down a little bit and can't just one-hit you, unlike something like Rune, which can usually be a bigger problem. So I don't mind taking a little bit of damage starting out here, so that's why we go for the Moriacrium. There's not really much reason not to. I mean, it draws us a card, it sets up for a future removal, and we're pretty well set. As far as our hand goes, all we really would need is to draw a decent Tenko play, and we would be 100% A-OK. Even our turn 4 is looking promising, with Unicorn Knight and Black Inscripture. So our removal's going to go off. We get probably the worst hit on the board, honestly, which is disappointing. But I mean, we still managed to remove it. Decided to go for another Moriacrium. I don't really have a reason to kill this 2-2 at this point, other than just for fun. But we don't unfortunately have a decent turn 5 play, and this one is quite rough. Battlefield Muse, definitely not a card I like to go up against, for sure. Although I do really want to build a deck with that card eventually, I just really need to get some more of it. It's going to be a problem from now until the next expansion, it's just going to be lack of cards. Mini expansion always roughs me up a little bit, but we did get a perfect removal there. I was planning on using Darkhind on it, but if they're going to remove themselves for free, I really don't mind. Plus, it sets up our 6-6 very quickly. This is why the Sword Follower does end up conceding very, very quickly, as our setup was pretty much perfect from here on out. Basically, as soon as we drop Tenko here, it does lead to a concede, especially with the Evo on this 6-6. Because there just isn't a lot, I guess, the Sword player could do from here. With no board to work with, it definitely would be hard to make a comeback. Which, of course, leads to the early concede in that one. Now, following up immediately off that game, we are up against Rune. No surprise, Rune is definitely still one of the most popular decks, at least as of making this video. I don't see it really going anywhere either, because from what I even played of it, it was quite powerful, as you saw with my Tempo Rune that we played. Although I will be checking out some of the other Rune variants, whether it's Giant Chimera, a more straight up Mysteria burn deck, or maybe even the Earth Rune deck if we can get the Legendary for that one, as that Legendary looks like a lot of fun, although I'm not sure how good it is. Day 1 I definitely saw a lot of it, but making this video, we're not really seeing a lot of that deck around lately. It's definitely one of the least ones that we're seeing. So we're starting off pretty strong. I do love 2-drop 1-3s. If any of you guys have watched the channel long enough, you'll know that. They're probably one of my favorite stat lines, especially in HavenCraft. So we do have to get rid of this 2-2. Black Inscripture, looking to be the best option. Definitely not one I usually want to take, but I can't really afford to leave that up when I don't have anything to follow that up with. So our turn 4 will be looking a lot more promising. We should be able to go for a nice Holy Priest Unicorn combo to both fill out our hand and our board quite comfortably with healing effects. Setting up for the double Tenko Shrine we're going to be able to drop to the board. A lot of people hate Tenko Shrine, especially after it became a huge meta deck for a while there. Everyone really hated on it, and it feels a little unwarranted. I mean, at the time, sure, it was quite overpowered, but I think the nerfs definitely made a difference, and even then, it's still a reasonably good deck. They didn't nerf it into the ground, which is nice, so it can still be competitive, but I think, yeah, it really got a bad rap in that time period. Very similar to the old Vengeance Bloods and, Abyss Bloods, all those sort of decks. Really had a bad rap back in the day. Even Mid-Shadow right now was getting quite a bad rap, even though I could definitely see where things were warranted. Mysteria Black Room, not really an issue. Fiery Embrace, yeah, that one's a little rougher. So this is a very easy thing to remove, although I do pick the harder route, as I mainly wanted to focus on getting out the double Tenko now, not later. So while I got the chance to absorb some of this damage, I think it was definitely the best choice I made. Although this Truth Adjudication definitely tests my patience, as we do have to deal with that card now too. So I hope for a decent ping off here. And we do get a really good one, honestly. That was probably ideal. Couldn't have asked for much better. It does mean we can go for a pretty decent amount of healing and kill some things off. Plus, with the setup Moriakirim, we are going to be able to clear whatever comes down onto the board. So we should be pretty happy with all of that. Mysteria Dragoness. Alright, 2 of them. Or, okay, maybe 3 of them. That's actually kind of impressive. I do love her Evolve Art. Such a sweet looking card. So they're probably hoping to survive with that. Unfortunate for them, they don't quite realize exactly how much healing and damage I can deal right now. Which, with the way I've set this up, is pretty much perfect. It didn't really matter which way these pings had to happen. This Unicorn Knight will win us the game, as it will trade nicely and then set up White Fang Temple, plus the heal at the end of turn due to Deal of Fate, and we have 8 damage. So worked really nicely in our favor. So this is certainly a deck that has performed very well for me, very consistently throughout this whole meta, all the way from the start of the expansion, even the previous expansion. It's always kept performing. It was even a deck I was playing before the big buffs to Tenko with things like Delafay, Gem Princess and stuff like that. So it's no surprise that it's got a little place in my heart, and it's always a lot of fun to play. Similar to Elena, another deck that I always really enjoyed playing. I think Haven in general, when it comes to control variants of decks, it's always got a nice place in my heart there. So hopefully you guys did enjoy it. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, make sure to like and subscribe. See ya.